Well, we're nearly at the end now. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I'm a geek. You're watching Kevin the Geek. And we're at the penultimate episode for Series 1 review of my New Who Doctor Who review. We're going to Cardiff. We're getting stranded for the night as we review Boomtown. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer, but if you're new, welcome to the channel. Please do consider subscribing, but do click the notification bell so you know when all my videos go live. And remember to like the video so you can let the YouTube algorithm know all the good stuff. There are 10 categories, at marks out of 10 for each one, to give an overall score out of 100. Let's get to it. So this is one of those strange episodes where really it feels like this is a story you would expect to see, or rather you wouldn't expect to see, because this is all the stuff that would happen behind the scenes. It just seems like a normal day where they're not getting into any trouble, not meeting any monsters or having any big problems. But then, of course, we find out that Blomfell-Thatch Pessimir Slevine has survived the missile strike on 10 Downing Street from a few episodes ago. And I think the fact that she's on her own gives it a little bit more depth to her character. And I actually quite liked her in this one. I wasn't mega fan of her the first time around, but this time I quite like the villain. But overall, they capture her. They want to take her back to her home planet, but it turns out she's got the death penalty. The whole Slevine family have got the death penalty, and so if the TARDIS crew take her back to Ruxa Corico Falapatorius, then she is going to get executed. So I think the whole core premise of the TARDIS crew getting stranded for a night and literally cannot go anywhere, and then the fact, the whole moral quandary with the whole situation regarding Blonde or the Slevine getting executed and their effect becoming the executioner. It's a real nice touch. It gets let down on a couple of points, but the overall premise and the overall execution was actually a lot better than I remember. So I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Now, the Doctor in this episode, once again, is doing wonderful jobs. He starts off really kind of fun and energetic and happy in a way that we've not really seen him for quite a few episodes, really since the last episode with the Slevine. And I find that interesting. When I think of this back, that's the last time he's kind of happy in a sense. Then he meets the Daleks. Gets very dark and broody. Then you go to Satellite 5 and you have the whole issue with Adam. Then you have Father's Day. And of course the whole issue with Rose. And then of course you have the empty child thing. And at the end of the empty child, it's almost like the Doctor gets his spark back. That, you know, with this whole big speech where everybody lives. It feels like he's back to his usual jolly self. But then, I think when he's accused of becoming an executioner, that stirs up a lot of bad memories for him. Again, nothing that he's really had to think about since Dalek, when he thinks about the time where he killed his own people. And I find it interesting seeing that little progression for the Doctor. I really like that, which I don't think I'd ever really noticed before. The Doctor has a few iffy moments in this episode, but for the most part, he was really good. So 8 out of 10. Rose in this episode is back to her usual underperforming self. She didn't do a lot, and she spent most of the episode arguing with Mickey, which I really get his point. You know, she's effectively dumped him without telling him. And she said that to Adam in Dalek when he asked her, do you have a boyfriend? She was like, no, not really. I kind of did, but not anymore. That's the thing. Since she's travelled with the Doctor, since she basically kissed Mickey goodbye at the end of Rose, Rose has literally dumped him. and is giving everything to her time with the Doctor. I feel that's really selfish, and you know, everything I remember seeing at the start of Rose, the relationship she had with Mickey was really nice. And she's just thrown it away. And not even had the courtesy to tell him. And I don't get her points. And I don't get why she's so upset. What? Because of the fact that he's upset. So, not good. Rose gets 4 out of 10 for this episode. Now, your 2 main supporting characters in this is Mickey and Captain Jack. Mickey, although I do get his point, did still feel very whiny, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But yeah, again, just a little bit underwhelming still with Mickey. It feels like they haven't quite worked out what they want to do with him quite as of yet. They're trying a few different things, and they're throwing a lot of darts, but at the moment nothing's quite hitting the board. Captain Jack is not in the episode a huge amount, but kind of steals the scene quite a little bit every time he is in it. Even the little scene where he's literally tinkering with the TARDIS. That is a scene that you should really kind of pay any attention to, but somehow your eyes are drawn to it. So, quite an average episode for Jack and Mickey as the supporting characters. They're going to get 6 out of 10. Your villain of the beast. Blomfeldforge Passamir Day Slitheen was really good. Like I said, the first time around, it feels like everything around the Slitheen tended to be around the farting aspect of them. This time, you got to see a lot more of them, and you got to understand more about what they were like, and the whole thing about the dart coming out of her finger when her life's in danger, or the poison that she breathes out of her mouth. That was all really good and gave a little bit more substance to make you feel like they were quite a credible villain. To the point where the Doctor literally plucks the arrow and throws it out. Yeah, I mean, that was a nice little moment. But the whole idea that she's begging to make the Doctor think I've actually changed because she spared a woman's life, because she was kind of, like, obviously she mentioned that she was pregnant. That reminded her of her brothers that she lost a few episodes ago. That was really nice. Really, some really almost human emotions to make her feel as like, oh, maybe she has become human. But the Doctor brings her back and basically tells her, you know, you're forgetting that there used to be a real Margaret, and she used to have the skin that you're wearing. You're wearing a dead woman's skin. You're speaking out of a dead woman's lips. It was really good. The ending felt a little bit cheesy, but I like the idea that she gets the possibility of a chance of a redemption. So, Blonde, Margaret, the Slitheen, she gets 8 out of 10 for this episode. Now, your music, again, is maybe slightly above average because they're starting to get a good sense of the audio balance and things, which has been real problematic for the majority of this season so far. But every single time, they're just getting better and better and better. And I really like that. Yes, there's a few iffy moments, and at times the music feels a little bit bombastic. But, yeah, Murray Gold is starting to find his form. So I think he's going to get 7 out of 10. Now, the special effects in this episode are, again, similarly to the music, they're starting to get a little bit better. But still, as I always said, the wider shots do definitely look a little bit better. But there's a few more practical effects going through. But really, the scene where you see the kind of the rift coming through the TARDIS, that had the potential to look a little bit off. But overall, like I said, they're just starting to find their form a little bit more with the special effects. And particularly the effects in terms of like the light coming out of the heart of the TARDIS. That looked really nice. And it gave that sort of ethereal quality just to give something a little bit different. So I really like the special effects in this one. Again, it still could definitely be better. And they definitely do improve with more seasons, I think, because technology just generally gets better. But yeah, special effects for this episode get 7 out of 10. So the story of this episode actually feels a lot more dialogue driven because there isn't as much action because they're kind of stranded. And so Russell T Davies had to think very carefully about all of his writing and make sure that everything was on point. And for the most part, he succeeded. There was the odd iffy moment here or there, but for the most part, everything he did was spot on. And like I said, the highlight of this episode was that whole restaurant scene. You had wonderful dialogue that felt believable and true, but it was performed by two wonderful actors. And so I think the dialogue's going to get 7 out of 10 for this one. Finally, pairing up the last two categories as I've done for the last couple of episodes, costumes and set. And not a lot you can really say. The TARDIS interior, where we spend a lot more than we have done in other episodes, just felt like the TARDIS. A little bit better lighting at times to give it a little bit of a mood change there. But really, other than that, not a great deal of difference there. And then, of course, when you're outside, you're in 2006 Cardiff. It's just normal clothes. I mean, what can you really say? For both the set and for the costumes, 6 out of 10. So what does this do for the final scores? Well, I can reveal to you that Boomtown has surprisingly scored 67 marks out of 100, which gives it a B- rating. What makes this really surprising is that Boomtown at the moment is ranked 3rd on the list for all of the Season 1 stories. Which means that at the very least, with the fact there's only one more episode left to go, Boomtown is going to finish no lower than 4th on the overall rankings. And that surprised me because if I remember correctly, I believe I had it like second last. Because I really didn't remember this episode very well. And I think I skipped it a lot of the times when I did do Season 1 episodes. Maybe I'm giving it a bit of an injustice. Maybe this episode is better than I remember. But those are just my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Please drop a comment down below. Let me know, did you think it was good or bad? Because your opinion is just as important and just as valid as mine is. Please join me in a couple of days' time as we get to the final episode, the final story of Season 1. Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. And we will say goodbye to Christopher Eccleston and hello, David Tennant. Thank you for watching. Take care. Goodbye.